Okay, today we're gonna have a class to view the characteristic of a letter of credit. We have several characteristics. The principle. If I say to you in brief, the principle. Okay. Principle of credit. Okay. Once we set the credit here in payment, the credit stands for letter of credit. Letter of credit. Okay. Okay, I told you once I said in payment credit, the credit means letter of credit. We have taught last class. This class we will have a study regarding the principle of credit. Okay, the principle of credit. We have a principle here. Number one principle is independent principle. Independent principle. Independent principle. Then, what is the independent principle? Independent principles, it can be summarized that letter of credit, in brief, credit, I told you how the letter of credit, works in previous. This is a sort of deferred, okay, deferred payment method, right? This method is very important in international trading, I told you. And this LC, in brief, the credit is not subjected. Is not subjected to contract. Okay, meaning that this credit is working separately. What is the meaning of this one? Okay, we have two tracks to proceeding. Actually, letter of credit mostly are issued by the basis of a contract, right? We have a trade contract between we have seller and we have a buyer here. Okay, they will have a contract together, and then we have a contract here. The contract regarding payment, how you will pay. You pay in advance or at the same time. Payment delivery time. You have a delivery condition, meaning Incoterms, right? And also, you will have lots of conditions for contract, and contract contains lots of conditions. And regarding payment will be a part of contract, and on the basis of this payment on the contract, you will proceed LC, or TT, or we have Rajab, right? DP, we have run, and DA, etc. We have many options. But once you select LC by contract, but this LC, the content of this LC cannot be equal to of payment of the contract. Meaning that, okay, here you have a contract, trade contract. We have trade contract here. Okay, this contract, right? I'm not now telling about this contract. It's trade contract. Trade contract. Okay, we have contract here, and we have a letter of credit here. Okay. As I told you, mostly the letter of credit is one of the payment condition, right? Payment condition. Payment condition. Okay, this is the payment condition. Okay, the payment condition also in the contract. Mostly, on the basis of the content of a contract, you will open letter of credit here, right? But one thing we have to be cautious here, even this letter of credit from contract condition, the payment condition, this letter of credit comes from payment condition of a contract, but you don't have to be same. Letter of credit doesn't have to be same with the content of a contract payment. So this payment condition is the payment condition of a contract. This content of letter of credit may be mostly similar or the same with this one, because this one is the clue of this one is usually comes from contract, but you don't have to be the same. This letter of credit doesn't have to be same with the content of this one. It can be different. It can be differ. Okay, the content of this letter of credit is okay. This content is different from the content of contract payment condition. Understand? This is so-called the principle, independence principle of credit. Okay, why we emphasize the difference is adaptable. That is none other than, okay, you have a contract here. This is a contract, okay, and you have a letter of credit here. Okay, letter of credit has a, it may have the payment, conditions. Okay, it may have also delivery condition, and also lots of conditions here. At the same time, this one also has a payment condition, and then delivery conditions, etc. Right? Okay. The reason why we have we have a contract, but the reason why we have separately another, method for the payment using letter of credit is because The letter of credit can make sure of payment and delivery. Okay, payment delivery. And then most of people can think that this one should be same. Okay, the letter of credit, the content of letter of credit should be same the content of contract, because this one is from this one, but that is not correct. Okay, this is the principle of independence principle of letter of credit. So this one called LC can be different from content of a contract. Okay, this one is called as independence principle. Okay, this is so-called, okay, in this case, this is so-called, this one and this one can be different. Okay, even they can be different, that is okay. Okay, so different is okay. That is we called none other than, that is we called independence principle. Okay, independence principle. Can you understand this one? Okay, this is the principle of independence. Okay, why we have to deal with this difference? Suppose that, okay, the buyer has a contract with, okay, has a contract with seller, and then they have a contract here, okay, and then once he opened letter of credit, he changed his mind, and he opened letter of credit different from this contract. He can do that. Okay, then this one can be different. If the buyer changed mind when he or she had a contract with the seller, the contract content was A. Okay, I mean, for example, delivery, delivery conditions as for example FOB. Okay, then once he opened letter of credit, he changed his mind, delivery condition CIF. Then afferently condition changed. Okay, but once letter of credit is accepted by whom? Accepted by whom? By beneficiary when accepted. Okay, by beneficiary. when accepted by beneficiary, okay, the changed condition is accepted as a letter. So letter of credit has no problem, even changed, okay, as long as accepted by beneficiary. Understand? Okay, because once letter of credit accepted by beneficiary, even the condition is different from original. The original condition is the contract condition, right? The condition once buyer and seller had made, okay, had made a contract, but this one changed. But this is once accepted letter of credit. This one is okay, and this one is negotiated by negotiating bank. Okay, so negotiate. Okay, this is the principle of independence of letter of credit. Understand? So if I give more the explanations for this, once letter of credit is opened and accepted by beneficiary, okay, this letter of credit is not subjected to original contract. So even the content of letter of credit is different from original contract. This letter of credit is acceptable by negotiation by bank. Okay, so the seller cannot raise objections to this letter of credit. Okay, by the excuse of not identical. Okay, by the excuse of not identical, he could not objection. Okay, that's the independence principle of this. So the opening bank cannot reject to honor beneficiary by the excuse of letter of credit is not identical to original contract. Okay, so even different, once beneficiary accept these conditions and proceeding the letter of credit is acceptable by the bank. Okay, so once we see the article of UCP, a beneficiary can in no case, okay, avail itself of the contractual relationship existing between bank or between applicant and issuing bank. Okay, so later on the beneficiary cannot reject. Okay, oh, this letter of credit is different from our original one. Okay, if he accepts this one, later on he cannot reject. So you have to, if you are beneficiary, you have to, scan letter of credit content in detail to find whether there is some different clauses, comparing original contract. Okay. So now pure study for the principle of independence. We have credit here. We have credit here. Okay. And we have a contract here. Okay. Even credit contains this credit is only available when this is corresponding to contract. Okay. Uh, even credit contains even the expression that letter of credit is available only once this is coincide. Even letter of credit contains the expression that the letter of credit should be coincide. Okay, coincide. The coincide with the contract. Okay, even the letter of credit has expression that the letter of credit should be coincide, coexistent with. Okay, coexistent with the same. Okay, the same coexistent with the contract. Okay, even it express this one, this expression is not invalid. This expression can be ignored. Okay, can be ignored because of what? Because of the principle of independence. Because of the principle of independence. Okay, so eventually, if I summarize this one, that then both parties, whom? The both party, I mean, both parties. The both parties means seller and buyer. Seller and buyer even either of them cannot insist. Okay, cannot insist that uh, asking or rejection cannot insist that, I mean, both party it belong to apply to both parties. Seller and buyer cannot insist that coexistence coincide of letter of credit. Okay, so this is the principle. Because bank has no obligations and bank has no obligations. If this independence policy is not exist, the process of letter of credit will be much complicated because they will debate by the excuse of incoincidence. So to avoid these complications, letter of credit principle suggests that no one, both parties, seller or buyer, cannot insist the coincidence between letter of credit and original contract. So this one is one thing. And then if there is some debate for this issue, letter of credit is not coincide with original contract. This issue should be settled down separately from credit process. This will be by arbitrations or by lawsuit separately. And then this process of letter of credit will be continued regardless of this issue, right? So we have to know that one. So this is the first thing we have to remember is letter of credit is separate from contract. This one and this one is the different way. Even letter of credit content is different from the original contract content. That does not make any influence on the effectiveness of letter of credit. It does not make any influence on effectiveness of letter of credit. This is principle. So this is principle of number one. Principle of credit is independence principle. Independence principle. This is independence principle. Then let's see the number two principle. The number two principle of letter of credit is abstraction principle. The abstraction principle. Number two principle of letter of credit, abstraction. This is abstraction principle, so-called. What is the abstraction then? Abstraction is the opposite concept of physical. Okay, this is the opposition concept of physical, meaning that the bank evaluate documentary fitness, not physical inspection. Okay, this means that bank has to deal with lots of hundreds of thousands of letter of credit negotiation. Then, in reality, the bank cannot go out and inspect every merchandise, whether it is equal to documentary. Okay, so bank only evaluate documentary. The documentary is correct or not, whether the documentary is correct or not to the letter of credit applications required. This is abstractions principle. Okay, because of this, the international fraud, deception can be deception can be occurred. Okay, because why? Because even without loading your physical article, they just can send empty container. Instead, they can make up as it is real loading in document. Even that, banker will negotiate document. Okay? Okay. Suppose that, do you understand these concepts, the abstractions? What is the meaning of the abstractions? The abstraction means that unseen, right? Just unseen, okay? Which is not physical, which is not tangible, okay? Not seen. So, just by evaluation of documentary, banker pay beneficiary for the product, right? Banker just pay beneficiary, okay? And just simply by evaluating documentary fitness, strictly speaking, documentary fitness, whether the documentary required by letter of credit is fit or not, is a fit or not. Letter of credit is so-called documentary evaluations. If documentary is okay, if documentary is well equipped, then bank should pay beneficiary. That is abstract principle. They don't go out for real inspections. Okay? Then we might have fraud or deceptions, international fraud, international deceptions, because of this principle. The drawback of this principle is that there might be some fraud or deceptions because the bank do not inspect in reality in job site to see whether the articles are fit to documentary. They don't care about it. They just make sure of adjustment of documentary requested by letter of credit. Okay, so this part. So to prevent this one, okay, to complement or to prevent fraud or deceptions, or to complement this drawback of principle of abstractions, buyer 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 should be buyer should be cautious. Okay, because buyer should be cautious and buyer should provide safety. Buyer should provide safety. Okay. Okay, the safety device which buyer should put on is inspect. So in letter of credit content, buyer should ask beneficiary to route inspections, local inspections, and his endorsement. Surveyor, okay? Surveyor, inspector. Inspector stamp like that, okay? Then he can prevent seller from sending empty container like that, okay? That is the abstraction principle. The abstraction principle is also for the convenience of a bank, negotiation bank, because bank has no personnel enough to covering this sort of coincidence between letter of credit content and real loading. Okay, so again, if I summarized the second principle, abstraction principle, abstraction principle is the principle bank face beneficiary only with documentary evaluations. Okay? The bank pays beneficiary only with documentary evaluations. Documentary is not physical one. Okay? Actually, to make sure beneficiary's shipment is a real one, according to documentary, bank personnel should go out, okay, and check it out. But in reality, bank has not time and personnel, okay. They are in short of time and personnel. In reality, this is impossible, okay, to check it out. All cargo, whether it is real one or not. So they just evaluate by documentary, okay? So they are evaluate whether documentary is fitable to letter of credit content, okay? The documentary submitted by beneficiary document submitted submitted documentary submitted by beneficiary okay is correct or not, okay, or is it correct or not to what, to content of letter of credit, to content of credit. They are just to check it out whether the documentary is well submitted, well equipped to meet the request of a letter of credit. Okay, they just seeing this one. Okay, they just evaluate this one. That is the called abstractions. Okay, so I told you the drawback of this principle. This principle also like you know independence principle of letter of credit. This is also from on the basis of the banker's beneficiary, because bank has no time and no personnel enough to check it out in job site. So they just evaluate the documentary. So some drawback of this system is that there might be international fraud or deceptions of sending empty container without any real article inside it. Okay, so to prevent this one, I told you we needed to the beneficiary or buyer. Which one? The buyer. The buyer should hire inspector, surveyor, examiner, the other investigations, okay, and which is a safety device to prevent this sort of fraud, okay. So this is the principle of the abstraction principle. So we have many drawbacks in letter of credit. So, but even we have drawback of this system, this the system is popularly used in international trade. Okay, because we have additional safety device to prevent of drawback of this system. Okay, okay, and so I explained this one. Okay, bank deal with documentary and not deal with goods, service, or performance to which the documentary may related. Okay, just they deal with the document. Okay, they evaluate the document. Additional explanations for this principle, abstraction principle of credit, is a nominated bank acting on its nominations, a confirming bank, if any, and the issuing bank must examine a presentation to determine on the basis of document alone, okay, on the basis of a document alone, whether or not the document appear on their face to constitute a complying presentations. Okay, if the document constitute a complying presentation, okay, then document will be accepted and negotiated. Okay, so they do not go out. The banker do not go out to inspector. Okay, to inspector real or not. They just evaluate. You know, or they just they just check whether the document are constitute a complying presentations. Okay? Complying presentations. Okay, and we will see next principle. Okay, so I told you the two principles already. The principle number one is the independence principle, and the principle number two is abstract principle. And next, the principle number three is strict compliance, mirror image rule. Okay, the doctrine of strict compliance. We have two expressions in third. Okay, mirror image rules is more popular expressions. Mirror image rule as preferred expressions. Okay. Another word, this one is that doctrine. Okay. Another expression is the doctrine of strict compliance. Doctrine of strict compliance. Doctrine of strict compliance. What is the meaning of the mirror image rules and doctrine of strict compliance? This is the like this. This is the meaning of the document submitted. The document document submitted the document submitted should be strictly should be complied with credit request. Okay, this principle is the same meaning that document submitted should be strictly compliant with the credit request. Okay, the meaning of this one is that in a previous principle I told you, in previous principle, okay, abstract principle, independent principle, banker only evaluate whether the document presented is constitute complying presentations. Okay, whether it is constitute complying presentation. Okay, whether it is constitute whether it constitutes complying presentation or not. This is the second principle of letter of credit. Then once we comes to this principle, the document here, the presentation here, okay, the presentation here, the presentation document strictly, it should be very strict. It should be evaluated very strictly. Okay, it should be identical. The meaning that complying presentations and document presented should be same, strictly same. Okay, even the letter should be identical. Okay, even one letter, one word should be identical. That is the principle of a mirror image. Rule like a mirror. Okay, the image reflected by mirror. Okay, should be same. Okay, the document requested by credit and document presented accordingly by beneficiary should be punctual, should be identical, should be same. That is the, that is the doctrine of strict compliance. In other words, mirror image rules. If These two body is not identical. I mean, credit request credit requesting document. This one is called another word, complying presentation. Complying presentation. And according to this requester, the document presented. This might be this requested by the buyer, right? And by the seller, beneficiary, we called beneficiary, another word. Okay, the seller and buyer, we have two parties here. According to the request of a buyer, the request of a buyer can be expressed in other words, credit requesting document or complying presentation. This is the same meaning, okay? So in UCP's expression is this expression, complying presentations, okay? This is another word, buyer's request, right? Then the seller should provide the document meeting buyer's request, okay? Another word, complying presentations. Then buyer will submit document. What document? Complying document. This document is the same, okay? Complying document. Complying document. Okay, this complying document once presented, this document should be identical to the request document. This document should be strictly identical. Strictly identical. Okay? Identical to complying presentation. Complying presentation. Okay? Okay. This is the meaning that the requested document and presented document, the submitted document should be identical, very strictly, as the same, like a mirror image, as the same, it should be same, as a mirror image. Okay? Okay, if not same, what can happen? Bank can reject the paying. This is if this is not same, bank can reject paying. Okay? Okay, this is the principle number 3 principle. Okay, mirror and strict compliance principle. Okay, then today we're gonna have complete class here. Okay, and then let you have to keep in mind these 3 principles. Okay, this is a sort of drawback of rate of credit. Okay? This is actually drawback, but we have all compliance, okay, to back up and as a safety device. This is drawback actually of the rate of credit. I mean, in other words, disadvantages using rate of credit. But we have some complement to back up, okay, to cure and to prevent some drawback of rate of credit, okay. And then rate of credit is the most widely used method, okay. So this method is universally frequently used, okay. So we should be very attentive to detect the content of this payment and process. Next time, we're gonna have the limitations, okay, of letter of credit, and then also at the same time we will learn how to get rid of the drawback, and then we will see advantages and disadvantages of letter of credit together. Okay.